Welcome to Backstories, the podcast where we dig deep into the untold tales behind the people, places, and moments that shape our world. Every month, we'll uncover the hidden narratives that inspire, surprise, and challenge us. So, grab your headphones and get ready to journey into the past, one backstory at a time.
Dave has a story. It's called Happy Story. He'll regale us with words that twist and turn. Dave, happy story.
So I feel a little bit like a cheat because I can't do storytelling. I do story reading. I have to have a script. But I guess if I do this long enough, I might be able to memorize it. So I apologize up front. This is a happy story. It's about one morning in my life when I had two dramatic reversals of fortune. So to set the stage, it's a hot summer in the late 70s, and I'm in my early 20s. Hitchhiking across country for the first time. I had done shorter trips a few times from Baltimore down to Tennessee to work on the farm with Michael, Kathy, Lynn, and her dog Oatmeal Cypress. But this was my first cross-country trip, and it was sort of my rite of passage into adulthood, inspired by hippies and Jack Kerouac novels. So I make it as far as outside of Salinas, Kansas. Fun fact, if you measure on a map, you'll see Salinas, Kansas is dead center east to west. At least the last time I checked before felonious Trump began renaming the maps. So the last ride I had from the previous night left me at an interstate ramp. And I had slept in the woods within sight of, but out of earshot of the highway. So this morning, I'm up at the crack of dawn. It's already hot. It had been hot all night. I had slept on top of my sleeping bag. So I put my kit together, and I dragged myself and my pack to the side of the highway. And after a while, I see headlights approaching, so I stick out my thumb. The very first car that comes by is a sheriff's car. So I immediately duck my hand behind my back, and I wipe the rest of the sleep out of my eyes, and I proceed to try to convince the cops that they didn't see me with my thumb out and I wasn't a hitchhiker at all. In those days, I was a very sincere liar. So they drive me to the police station. Now, this had never happened to me before. I had had some fairly harrowing and a lot of fun adventures hitchhiking, but never any encounters with the police. This is, by the way, a striking example of my cis white male privilege, but we didn't call it that back then. Another fun fact. Redneck cops, I mean those with short crop plumage and a bright red band of skin at the back of their necks, are an indicator species. And for me, they indicated, I am well and truly fucked. The whole ride, these two cops, who might have been brothers, were chatting with each other about the sad state of the country and how some cops handled lawless strangers. And I'm in the back seat of the air-conditioned car without cuffs. My pack is in the trunk, and I'm trying not to pee in my pants. So the cops took me to the station, and they fingerprinted me. And they kind of tried to scare me by saying I needed a haircut, and how they could hold me in jail for 30 days before trial. But they didn't really have to try to scare me very hard, because I knew I had part of a joint wrapped in aluminum foil inside a baggie, shoved down the toe of one of my dirty socks in the backpack. And I know if they find the pot, I'm toast, although we didn't call it that back then. And this, by the way, is before cell phones and the internet, so I know I'm going to spend at least one night in prison and maybe the rest of my very short and miserable life. This was, after all, heartland and not coastal America. And I'm a broke, dirty hippie with a ponytail who hadn't had a shower in days. After maybe a half hour of me sitting in the office using my mind power to try to get the cops to forget that I came in with the backpack that they had propped up against the wall, they drove me to where they said it was the county line, and they said, "Don't come back here again or we'll arrest you." I didn't see any signs of county lines or any markers, but I didn't argue the point. So now it's still early morning. I'm standing in the hot sun, sweat pouring off my face, and I'm shivering at the same time from my immediate near-death experience when maybe a minute later a van pulls up. I climbed into air-conditioned heaven. It's a guy about my age, and he's the roadie for the Steve Goodman Band. Now, I doubt that any of you know who Steve Goodman was, but you might know one of his songs. Arlo Guthrie and I think later Willie Nelson made it famous, "The City of New Orleans." Riding on the city of New Orleans, Illinois Central, Monday morning rail, 15 cars and 15 restless riders, 3 conductors and 25 sacks of mail. So now for the next 2 days, we take turns driving through the Southwest. It's my first time there, smoking his weed, eating the fast food he bought for both of us, listening to the radio, telling life stories, seeing where we were going to be an hour or 3 as the distant mountains grew larger and larger on the windshield. This was the second longest but best ride I ever hitched. In a couple of days, we pulled into a recording studio in LA, and I kind of was dashed out pretty quickly, but along the way, I did get a glimpse of Emmylou Harris, who was, 20 feet from me down a hallway, just for an instant. And the roadie gave me $10 and the name and phone number of his sister in San Francisco who would put me up for a night. A few weeks later, at the end of this cross-country adventure, I found my people and a place for me to settle for the next few years outside of Olympia, Washington. So the moral of this story is your life can flip on a dime, go from hell to heaven when you're able to take chances and you get lucky.